4, 3, 2, 1. Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, a specter haunts colonized states, and that specter is the ghost of neo-colonialism. The greatest irony in this debate is that agency and autonomy, which essentially are political and legal systems, are ultimately mutually exclusive. And we believe that colonized states would have definitely been better off marching to the beat of their own drum as opposed to going back to their very colonized masters when they plant a seed of neo-colonialism that entrenches themselves in conflict, entrenches themselves in war, and ultimately leads to a host of things we see problematic in society. A couple of features of our model we think are relevant to this debate. Number one, this is a prefers motion and a comparative of words. We think that in status quo, this particularly looks like how, if you take a look at any colonized state who was able to adopt all of these political and legal systems in the past, have ultimately found themselves entrenched in systems of economic disparity. Meaning, you have a very clear divide between developed colonizer and developing kind of state, and this ultimately robs them the ability to truly make their own decisions. Why is it specifically harmful that they adopt political and legal systems? Because we have to understand that colonized states and colonizer masters often have a very bloody and dangerous relationship. That is to say, it's not a homogeneous kind of state that just accepts all of this Kool-Aid and all that and likes it. In fact, the process of colonization in and of itself comes at the cost of war and bloodshed, which ultimately wreck a lot of people. This is precisely where religious and cultural and ethnic identities, particularly minorities like that we see in the Philippines, ultimately get pushed to the margins and excluded from those majority who are the benefactors of these particular incumbent institutions, that of the majority who often come from the bourgeoisie or the political elites. The second thing we have to say is that, what does this look like? This particularly looks like the Philippines, rather than adopting American and Spanish legal systems and institutions, rejecting all of that, not allowing democracy and all these systems shoved down our throat, and the counterfactual of the establishment of the Philippine Maharlika nation, a federalized Luzon, Visayas, in Mindanao, basically what we saw in the movie Kingdom MMFF, wherein a lot of things in Mindanao were able to coexist, and these individuals wouldn't want to secede precisely because of these ethnic and cultural tensions. What exactly do we want in this debate? We're simply going to prove a couple of things. Number one, these countries who are colonized would have been better off at the entirety of the timeline, meaning at the point in which they were colonized, at the point in which they are fighting for autonomy, and the point in which they're already free from the shackles of oppression. We're defending the full range of colonization in terms of talking about that particular timeline. First argument coming from me. What exactly are the exclusive harms with being able to adopt legal structures and political structures of your colonized master? The first layer of analysis is that these are often planting seeds of control and proxy power. That is to say, the ones who were in charge at the point in which you were colonized are often people not from your country who speak a different language, have a different set of values. Meaning, they killed your grandfathers, they killed your parents in terms of being able to conquer. That is how conquest works. And they ultimately shove a lot of these things down your throat. That's why a lot of things like the Philippine Aitas and a lot of our animist past get really whitewashed, and we ultimately get indoctrinated with Catholicism and Christianity, which happened over hundreds of years. We think that we simply avoid a lot of these unnecessary things at the point in which we were able to march to the beat of our own drum and be able to push back against that and be able to understand that these systems are actually in place to be able to protect particular individuals. Closing opposition, go for it.
What does it mean to be a Filipino?
I don't know, man. Like, that's a PhD thesis in itself. We think that there is no particular definition. It's exactly on your side where you ascribe and create that meaning, wherein it's often dictated by our colonizers, wherein they're able to arbitrarily craft these lines which ultimately create in-groups and out-groups. Meaning, if you do not take or are a part of the legal or political system of the colonizer, you are seen as an enemy of the state and you are at worst killed in a form of genocide or ethnic cleansing, like what we've seen in parts of Europe, in apartheid South Africa, and other parts of Latin America, or in the mildest, you're literally pushed off to the margin and those things happen. Opening up before 6, go for it. Yeah, it was before 6. Sure. Go, it's fine.
So, in this kind of society that we're trying to create right now, how will still we can keep up to the globalization and the standards of the modern society while still keeping that your so-called tradition from the culture or the structure you want to put engage?
Simply because democracy is not the end-all be-all of anything. Meaning, when you're able to establish your political and legal systems from the ground up, absent the support from your colonized masters, the trade-off we're willing to take is, we might be poorer at first, it might not be as fast, it might take long, but at least less people die and more people are happy, wherein we're able to truly preserve the authenticity of what it truly means to be a Filipino, whatever that would mean. We wouldn't have a lot of these socio-economic wars and conflict with Mindanao and other people who were ultimately pushed to the margin and pushed to the wayside by the people before us who dictated it for us. What have we told you coming from Open in Government? We told you a very clear picture of how this is going to work and ultimately how the collective institution is better off and more people are ultimately free to exercise these choices. We are very proud to open this debate and stand on side proposition.